Shalom Aleichem. Manishma. As we say in Yasharel, what's up? Anashim Mishporka. Bet Yasharel. Shalom Yehudim. Ma shalom to the men. Ma shalom ka to the women. We greet you all the house or the Bet Yasharel that's feeling alienated, but yet you know you are to be grafted into the house of Israel, or you know that you know in your knower you are grafted into the house of Israel. We greet you all and we thank you for tuning in for Eliyahu channel, EaglesHavenMinistry.com. We thank you for tuning in and we appreciate you coming on, and we have an exciting fellowship we're going to talk about. And we're basically our fellowship is it's still a little bit about the Talmud, but it's based on Yohanan chapter 9 verse 1, and we're going to see some of the emphasis of the battle and the psychiatry of what they were taught as growing up as rabbinical Jews, to think in their box and not be able to think out of the box, and how a blind man could put a man to shame that could see. And we're just going to have a great fun. I greet you all. And for you that is your Shabbat Shalom. For you that are tuning in at a pre-recorded episode on YouTube, and whatever time you watch this on your Shabbat or on our Shabbat or whatever, we just greet you with love, and we're with Ahab of Yahuwah. We greet you and we thank you. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to go to Yohanan chapter 9, starting with verse 1. In this scripture, we'll bounce around from different books. We're going to start off with TS 2009. I love this story. It's the blind man who puts the rabbis that can see to shame. Okay. So he had ears. Even if you can't see, you have ears, and you can sit in and hear and read the Torah and hear the Torah by hearing Torah, people reading. And we're going to go to verse 1, and we're going to begin. And passing by Yahushua, of course, he saw a man blind from birth. Doesn't tell you much information why he was blind, but blind from birth. And his taught ones asked him, saying, Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he should be born blind? Stop and think for a minute. What rabbinical commentary were they thinking? That certain parents' sin can make a child born with a disease or sickness? Well, we know today if you eat the wrong thing, or you get vaccinated while you're pregnant, or you get vaccinated a bunch of vaccines before you start having children, there can be some problems with your children, okay? But in modern, that's not sin. That's what you call lack of knowledge, you know what I mean? But it still doesn't stop it from what can happen. But this shows you rabbinical thought. Who sinned, this man or his parents, that he should be born blind? Yahushua settled the matter and answered, neither this man nor his parents sinned, but that the works of Aloha might be made manifest in him. Yahushua put it straight, right off the top. This is, in other words, yeah, I know Yahushua, if you were talking today, yeah, if you go out and you do bad things, eat bad things against the Torah, and you're pregnant, you're going to have problems probably with your child being born or after it's born. But say you do all the Torah right thing, you're living in Israel, you're born this way. Who made him blind? Was this his sin? How could a man that is barely born be born blind? He hasn't sinned. But the Yahudis believe that a person's sin can bring on sickness and disease. Of course, we as believers could agree on that. But a baby's innocent. They haven't done nothing yet, right? They haven't waited to the age of accountability yet, right? Weaned from their mother and knowing right from wrong, growing up. He said, neither, but that the works of Aloha might be made manifest in him. It is necessary for me to work the works of him who sent me while it is Yom. Night is coming when no one is able to work. While I am in this earth, I am the light of this earth. Having said this, he spat on the ground and made clay with the saliva and applied the clay to the eyes of the blind man. So now we know what was going on. He was born without eyeballs. He had a missing part. So Yahushua did a creative miracle. He took his own saliva water of the Creator, mixed it in probably real good refined mud, dirt, made mud, and put two little cute marbles of mud in his socket. And he said to him, go wash in the pool of Shiloh, which means sent. So he went and washed and came see. So he applied it in his eye. But now it's up to the man to say, what did you put in my eye socket? What did you put on me? Get this stuff off me. What are you, a crazy magician or something? No, he heard of the Mashiach. He heard him. Maybe he even heard the man that was sitting in that bed called out, Yahushua, son of David, have compassion on me. Have compassion on me. Maybe he heard that story. Maybe he heard the very man said it, and he went and washed and came see. So somebody escorted him, and he went and washed. Therefore, the neighbors of those who saw him before that he was blind said, is not this he who was sitting and begging? Others said, this is he. Others said, he is like him. He said, I am he. Of course, he won't look the same because he won't have the beggar's coat no more. He does have to report to the rabbis and get back that coat. And of course, once he's blind, he want to do some things. He want to maybe trim his hair, get a hair wash, trim up, clean up, wash up, comb it back. You know what I mean? He'll look a little different to others, right? And so they said to him, how were your eyes open? He answered and said, a man called Yahushua made clay and applied it to my eyes and said to me, go to the pool of Shiloh, and wash. And I went and washed. I received my sight. They say to him, where is he? He said, I do not know. Now let's go to verse 13. They brought to the Pharisees the ones who was once blind. Now it was a Shabbat when Yahushua made the clay and opened his eyes. Therefore the Pharisees also asked him again how he had received his sight. And he said to them, he put some mud and made clay with a spit, put it on my eye, and I wash and I see. Therefore some of the Pharisees said, this man is not from Aloha, because he does not guard the Shabbat. Others said, how is a man who is a sinner able to do such a miracle? And there was a division among them. You know, when I read this, I always think, well, this guy don't know what work is. He called picking up a little dirt, throwing spit on it, and rolling it up a little ball bearing and sticking it in a man's eye work. That ain't no work. Just like when I used to ride the elevators, and it was during Shabbat, they won't even touch the elevator button. They would ride the elevator that recycles automatically through electronics, through a timer, up and down by itself, and the button don't work. If I touch it, they'd hit my hand. Shabbat, don't work. I said, pushing a button ain't work. You don't know work until you know work. This ain't work. Pushing a button. This ain't work. Taking a little piece of mud and spitting it in and making clay to heal a man. And they said to the blind once again, what do you say about him? Because he opened your eyes. He said, he is a Nabi. Okay? However, the Yehudim did not believe concerning him, that he had been blind and received his sight, till they called the parents of him who had received the sight. The only puzzle I have in this great chapter, because to go around begging, you got to have if you're blind, you got to have a beggar's coat. And if you had a beggar's coat, the physician doctors of the Pharisees had to examine you. And then they get the doctors of the law, lawyers, to write out a scroll of a piece of paper so they can show people that they have a legal document. That was the only part I didn't understand. They should have known that this man, unless he got the document in another section of the city or an area and went to live in Jerusalem and he was begging there. That was the thing I kind of questioned, right? So they called the parents of Ezekiel, they called the parents of him who had received his sight, and they asked him, saying, is this your son, who you say was born blind? How then does he now see? His parents answered him and said, we know that this is our son, and that he was born blind. But how he now sees, we do not know. Or who opened his eyes, we do not know. He is of age, ask him. He will speak concerning himself. His parents said this because they were afraid of the Yehudim. The Yehudim had already agreed that if anyone confessed that he was the Mashiach, he should be put out of the congregation. In other words, they'll make record and they could not go into the congregation. Because of this, his parents said, he is of age, you ask him yourself. So far, the second time they called the man who was blind and said to him, give esteem to Aloha. We know that this man is a sinner. Then he answered and said, whether he is a sinner, I do not know. I only know that I was blind and now I see. And they asked him once more, what did he do to you? How did he open your eyes? He answered them, I have told you already. Man, I would say, and you did not hear me? Why do you wish to hear it again? Do you want to become his taught ones also? Then they abuse him and said, and abuse him means they pushed him around, started shoving on him, right? You are his taught one, but we are the taught ones of Moses. We know that Allah has spoken to Moshe, but this one, we do not know where he is from. The man answered and said to them, why? This is a wonder. Why do you not know where he is from? Yet he opened my eyes. Now, this blind man that could see better than the Pharisees and Sadducees and all the rest of them, you know that Allah does not hear sinners. This is the man talking. But if anyone reveres Allah and does his desire, he hears him. This is footnote, and he was quoting in Proverbs 28:9. From of old, it was never been heard that anyone opened the eyes of one born blind. Or in other words, anyone that didn't have eyeballs in the socket got creative healing. If this one were not from Aloha, he could not have done none of all. They answered and said to him, you were completely born in sin, and are one teaching us? And they cast him out, because a blind man can see. So the Pharisees that thought they could see and read Torah, were blind. They're reading the philosophies of encyclopedias of Rabbinical Talmud. They were reading commentary books, not the Torah of Moshe. Let's stop there for a minute. And we're not going to start in verse 35, and we're going to let you share. Anybody want to share? For the first 34 verses we shared, you want to share something or add input. Father quickened you on a verse. Please share.
It's amazing every time we read that, because it's like they were the ones that were blind. And who wants to be in a congregation like that? That's what I have. That's what's in my mind right now.
I know.
I want to be kicked out of there. I leave.
You don't have to kick me out. I'm out of here.
I'm out of here.
They had no creative. What else? Who else is talking?
Part that really, Shalom Aki, that really ministered to me this Yom was where he said, "Who sinned?" And I'm paraphrasing. It says, I think it was verse 9. It said, "No one," but it was that that the works of Elua will be shown. And I often ask the Father, why did I go through all these things? Was it something my mom or dad did? And lately the Father said, because it's for such a time as this, so I could show my works through you. The things that, I'm just going to be clear, the things that were being violated as a child, all the Christianity lies, all the stuff. So why did I go through all that? And the Father is showing me it's so he could be magnified, so that he could show his works through all of us. We went through all that crazy stuff that we went through in the past, so Abba could get esteem.
Hallelujah.
Yeah.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. I just see how I was once blind and now I see. And because I see, and I try to tell people, look, he's opened my eyes. I can see, and telling them, and they don't want to hear it. They think they got it all and they know what they need to know.
They're in their little 2x2, 4x4 cubicle. Us four, no more. When I went to Texas and I was driving down the road, Badland area, and I seen a congregation, there's Assembly of Yahweh. I pulled in and the doors were open. How many congregations in Los Angeles, the doors are open? Or in a big city, you got wrought iron gates locked, and they got the big iron doors locked, and they got security cameras, So I go in the foyer and I see all the books and scriptures and everything there. And I guess he must have had a camera or something. He'd come out from his back office, and he wasn't the pastor. He was the guy that stood there to minister. I said, wow, I'm looking at your Bible, and it's dated 1961. I thought there was only a King James Bible. He started laughing, right? So he gave me a bunch of pamphlets and literature material. The assemblies of God, the assemblies of God, they didn't start till after Azusa Street. All right. The Methodists were around before them. Foursquare started in the 40s. The Pentecost and Apostolic, they were around in 1800. The assemblies of God, they didn't start to around, I think, 1910, 1915. They built their first congregation right off the 101 freeway. And I think it was in 1925, something. They call it the Mother Church, like a Catholic church, right? And it was a really good facility. It was a big dome. It still stands there. And so the Spanish people run it now. And there was a Messianic group that I went to visit it that was there. And they, I didn't know there was ever a split. But in the 50s, they started getting the name and they started keeping the commandments, and they broke away from the Assemblies of God, and they called the Assemblies of Yahweh. And so all the ones from Texas broke away, and most of them became Assemblies of Yahweh. Okay? And of course, they didn't have the real name, but they were trying, because we all spoke Yahweh in the beginning. A lot of us, we're all speaking Goo Gaga, trying to talk, say his name. And I took a bunch of them. I still have the material. They taught the feast. They were looking at trying to explore the calendar. Back then, they were so interested. I said, wow, this is amazing. And so, like, when you think you're the new kid in the block or the new one, just pioneering, no way. There was others that were persecuted, kicked out, tossed to the curb. People told, don't talk to him. It happened to others. It happened to us. It happened to great-grandfathers the same way. And the Father made a way for it to come now with technology and really here to stay. You know what I mean? And then I started discovering other scriptures, the ISR, and other Bible scriptures from all over the earth that were here a long time. And even Noah Webster trying to print up a Bible. And all the Christians got together and excommunicated him, right? For printing up a better scriptures with cleaner words. Yeah. He told everybody don't buy his Bible. He made like $100 Bible, selling it for $30, and you couldn't even, you could pay $5 for it. It'd be nice if I could find one, and because he corrected a lot of the words that were pagan, and the print was wrong, punctuations and things like that. And they went against him because they were King James only, So it's amazing how even the Christians persecute their own for trying to be a little different, And we always had a saying that Christians, the only religion, they shoot their own kind. They'll shoot their wounded. Christians are the only ones that shoot their winded instead of heal them. Okay. All right. Anybody else before I move on?
I think it's because it's a programming that goes on since we were very little. And of course, it's spiritually connected, that when somebody's different, we just automatically reject them.
Yeah. Because they all reject each other too.
Yeah. It happens within even their own group of people.
Yeah. Yeah. In verse 35, Yahushua heard that they had cast him out. And when he had found him, he said to him, do you believe in the Son of Allah? What? He's saying, do you believe in the Son of Allah? And if he's Yahudi, he probably never heard of a son of Yahuwah, right? He's never heard of it. And of course, if he's speaking in Hebrew, he'll be saying, have you believed in the Son of the Mighty One? And he answered and said, who is he? Great One, that I might believe in him. And Yeshua said to him, you have both seen him, and he who speaks with you is he. So he's telling them right there, a Hebrew, he is the Son of Allah. And he said, Master, I believe, and bowed before him. Some translation, when they break it up, says, because the word bow down, is one of the 5 words for baraki, barak, baruch, which means to bow down in worship. So he bowed down and worshiped him as a mighty one. And Yeshua said, for judgment I have come into this earth, that those not seen might see, and those seen might become blind. And those of the Pharisees who were with him heard these words and said to him, are we blind too? And Yeshua said to them, if you were blind, you would have no sin. But now you say we see, therefore your sin remains. So it's the ones that stubbornly, these guys were stubbornly trying to figure a way to accuse Yahushua of breaking the Shabbat. They didn't read the Torah of Moshe. They read the commentary with pieces of the Torah in the 13 volumes of Rabbinical Talmud, which say, can't do even a creative miracle. You can't do. Helping a grandma that can't walk in a muddy street. You can't pick her up and cross the street of mud. All that stuff, a storm hit. And we were invited for Shabbat in an ultra Orthodox place. What I used to do, and when I stayed in Abraham Hostel, and I used their TV room as a conference room to teach, I would stay there and do the Shabbat with some friends. But if somebody invited me that's Rabbinical Jew to come to their house to eat, or to a house with 2 or 3 families, I would go. And I got the direction, and it's a real maze. The streets are a maze. If I showed you a picture, you wouldn't believe it. You can find your way there, you might not find your way back, as you ask people how to get out. I had an umbrella, and I put the umbrella up to be able to walk, to go to this house, because it started storming. And they were yelling at me from balconies. They were thrashing at me like rocking on the street. And they wouldn't walk on the street because the water was like 2 or 3 inches flowing fast. And they didn't want to get their patent leather shoes and socks all wet. But if they had rocks, they would have stoned me on Shabbat. Here I am trying to get to Shabbat before the Shemesh went down. It wasn't even Shabbat yet, but it was getting dark because of a dark cloud in the sky. It wasn't I knew I had an hour to get there, but the clouds made it dark, and there was a thunderburst and all kinds of rain, and it got dark, but it wasn't Shabbat yet. But they're telling me I'm breaking the Shabbat, and if they had a rock, they would stone me, right? I'm trying to get somewhere to keep the Shabbat, and they're going to stone me before the Shabbat. Look at the logic. Look at the logic of this stupidity, man. It's like common sense, whatever happened to a little common sense? What logic is this? What common sense is this? But yet, this is what I had to go through. Right? I witnessed it myself. Right? And I scooted out of that place so quick, got out of there and found my place, and they invited me in, got me in a shelter, got me a towel, and took off my shoes, got me a towel so I could dry my feet and the bottom of my pants, and gave me a towel for my head, and dried me off. They treated me so well. How could one Jew dressed black and white be so loving, and then another handful in the middle of a court want to stone you? Ain't that something? So at the rest of this verse, anybody want to turn off their mic and share something of their experience? But what took place? That the ones that say they're not blind are the blind ones. And the blind man that could see, he's the one that can see. Go ahead and share.
That's strongholds of belief. They were just set in what they believed, and that was it. That's the way we are until Yahuwah wakes us up. That's the way I see it, though.
Anybody else?
I see it as man puts man's tradition above the word, the truth of the word.
That's right.
Yeah.
Made the word of non-effect through your tradition.
I think it's also the way he revealed himself to the blind man, like he did with the woman at the well.
Right.
That makes me cry every time I read it.
I know.
Awesome.
Yeah. They have the same book. Because, let's face it right now. I had, when I made that video, the last two videos I made, the one about God and the one about renouncing. Anybody want to add input about it or any results about it? Then I'm going to share what happened to me. Well, what I had was, I had somebody watch the renouncing, and they were doing what the rabbis said to Yeshua. Blasphemy! He's talking bad about God and the J-Man. He's calling them fake names. Blasphemy! The Christians are saying, I'm a blasphemer, telling other people, don't watch the video. Don't watch that video. I'm a blasphemer because I got them renouncing the German and ancient Canaanite deity, God. Yeah, and the J-Man and all that. I'm a blasphemer. I bet you if I did that in their congregation, they would throw chairs at me. They would beat me up, push me out the door in the parking lot, stole my car, leaving the parking lot. But we got some good hits though. A lot of people liked it. Okay, then let's go to Matthew chapter 12, verse 22. At that time, Yahushua went through the grain of fields on the Shabbat, and his top ones were hungry, and began to pluck the heads of the grain to eat. Now, I'm going to stop there. These guys were going through the grain of fields, and they did a drive-through restaurant. All right? They did a drive-through restaurant, people. They picked some grain, and they broke it, and they were nibbling on it. Just like if you get sunflower seeds, and you break the sunflower seed, and eat the seed, and spit out the shell, okay? And when the Pharisees saw it, they said to him, look, your top ones are doing what is not right to do in the Shabbat. Well, first of all, who said that is work? Some guy in the Midrash of Mishnah said that you can't even pluck a grain from the ears of corn or ears of anything and just stick it in your mouth. That's work. Reaching out is work. Give me a break. That's not work. Well, you're saying reaching for water. Drinking water is work then. Same amount of labor it takes to get a piece of grain and break it, to reach out in a pond and pull up the water to your face. Give me a break. The Pharisees say you drink water, but you can't get a piece of poly seeds and break the shell and eat it, right? So they said, look, your top ones are doing what is not right on the Shabbat. And he said to them, have you not read what David did when he was hungry, he and those who were with him? How he went into the house of Eloah and ate the shewbread, which was not right for him to eat, nor for those who were with him, but only the Kohanim. Verse 5, or did you not read in Torah that on the Shabbat, the Kohanim in the set apart place, profane Shabbat, who are blameless? But I say it to you that in this place there's one greater than the set apart place. And we know that we're the house of Yahuwah, where he lives in us. We used to say the temple, we're the temple. No, you not. We are the house of Yahuwah today. And if you had known what this means, I desire compassion and not offering, you would not have condemned the blameless. So here's part of the reason of the first part, the blind man. They didn't have compassion on the blind man that he could see. They didn't have compassion. He had no eyeballs. And Yeshua did a creative miracle that he can see, that he touched them and made. Now, has anybody done these miracles today? I've only heard a couple. One got hit for doing it. It didn't turn out so well. But here, look at verse 8. For the son of Adam is master of the Shabbat. And then he's going to go to the man of the withered hand. Now, there was a man I knew, and I spoke in his tents. He was a very famous evangelist of the Christian community. And he didn't like church buildings. He only liked tabernacles. He called it the big tent, the big tabernacle. And the Father wants to live in us just like a tent. And he loved tents all the way up to the last breath. Even when they charge him millions of dollars of fire insurance to put up a tent, he'll put up a tent. He was the only man I knew. He did not make clay with spit and put it in a man's eyes. A woman walked up to him that had a chemical burn on her face and went blind. And she was in prayer, and she heard Shambach was coming through town. And she asked her sister or friend, take her to the altar. And he said, Shambach, you better be obedient, a man of Aloha. And he said, what? I had a dream, and when I woke up, Father told me to come to this tent and tell you exactly what to do. And he said, what? I had a chemical burn in my job, and I'm blind. I've been blind since I was 16 years old. I'm a mother, and I have children. Never seen the face of my babies. Spit in my eye, and I shall see. And he spit in her eye, in her eyes. And that woman saw for the first time since she was a teenager. I never heard of any other. I always heard one guy try to do it, and they beat him up because the person didn't get healed. You know what I mean? He was a fake it to his make it healer, right? And you know, Shambach, there's areas I didn't like about him. But one thing he did he talked about Shabbat, and he talked about the Torah and keeping the feast. And if he practiced it, he did it on his own. Because when we used to have the tent meetings, he would open up after Shabbat in the evening, and we'll be there waiting. We'll be taking a break all day from putting up the tents, all the workers. And then once up, we took a break, ate, celebrated, and that evening, sound men came, set it up, and we opened service. And then all day on the first day of the week in the evening. And so all I know in Texas, he tried to get me, kidnap me, and go and marry some country punkin girl. She was probably could pick me up and take me to lunch. And he tried to get me to join his team, travel around, because he used to have me speak and give my testimony in his tent. And one of his top bodyguards was an ex-Aryan, full of tattoos all over his body, swastikas and everything else. That was his main bodyguard, you know. He said, those that sin the most are loved the most. His whole crew were ex-Hudsonville and all these ex-chain gang, Texas chain gang guys, because he used to go into prisons, put up a tent in the middle of the yard, and preach the good news to them, right? So he probably, if I knew the good news the way I know now, and I came to talk to him, he would have listened to me. I believe he would have. I really do. But anyways, let's get back. Anybody got a question or add to Matthew 12, what we read? Want to add to it or share an experience? Please do.
I have a scripture to share.
Okay, brother, what is it?
It is Psalms 127.
This is starting out the first verse. If Yahuwah does not build the house, its builders have labored in vain. If Yahuwah does not guard the city, the watchman has stayed awake in vain. In vain do you rise up early, to sit up late, to eat the bread of soil. So he gives his beloved sleep. And that's it. Verse number 2 is like very important. Like it stood out to me because a lot of people work from the sundown to sun up to sundown every day. And he gives his beloved sleep. He will give you rest, and that, you know, stood out to me.
That's a good verse, brother. That's very
Thank
important. Thank you
Hallelujah.
for sharing that. Yeah, and this is, when I got sick and I started working too much and I got sick, ended up in the hospital. That was one of the things I shared with the Father. Now, I mean, when it gets to a certain hour, whoop, time to go. And they tried to call me, do a big giant chauffeur pickup. I said, oh, I'm gone. I'm headed out. I don't need the money. Father will provide. You know what I mean? And I have to remind myself, because the enemy will try to dangle that little carrot. Oh, brother, come on, stay overtime. You're going to get, instead of $20 an hour, you're going to get $40 an hour. You're going to get $60 an hour to time and a half, double time, And I dangle that little carrot. And then you go home late. Then you have to get up early in the morning and do it all over again. Thank you for sharing that, brother. Anybody else? Another chapter, verse, scripture.
No, but go along with what he was just saying, what your little testimony there about the work. I used to own a business in Panama City Beach, Florida. And the business would keep you awake because it was emergency services, fires, floods, and stuff. You'd be on call 24 hours a day. So I left the business I worked for and started my own. And they told me my business wouldn't last because I didn't work the Shabbat. And then there was one point where we were doing lunar Sabbaths where I didn't do, the new moons or the Sabbaths. And they would say, that's our busiest time. Your business won't work. It won't last. Well, it did. We thrived. And they just could not believe it, but we were just being faithful to trust him,
Right.
take his days off. And we didn't have to work 12, 16-hour days or 24-hour days. We worked our 8-hour shift and went home, and we rested, and we were off on the Sabbaths and the new moons. And it was just incredible how he was faithful, just obey. The best that we knew how at that point.
That's so wonderful you shared that.